and the results were miraculous. Animals that couldn't walk, one treatment, they were running. And I kind of did sort of a double take of, wow, I've been missing this had been in practice like 10 or 12 years at that point. And I said, so I've been missing this for the past 10 years, and all those animals that I could have helped that got euthanized or left paralyzed or whatever. And I said, if this is so good, what else is out there? And that just opened Pandora's box of what else is in here that I can work with. Dogs and cats, there's about 90 million of each. So it's 180 million, it's half as many. 6 million dog cancer diagnoses and 6 million cat cancer diagnoses per year. So their percentage of having cancer is 3.4%. Why are our animals 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than people? 6 times. Only 5% of the life cycle of fleas and ticks is spent on the pet. The other 95% is in the environment. We need environmental control. So if you happen to have a household full of animals and you also have a household full of fleas, stop treating your animals and start treating your house and your yard. So over 80% of indoor cats are highly stressed.
Yeah.
Like when we look at stress markers, they're so stressed. And then you wonder why your cat's not peeing in the litter box and why they're scratching the furniture and the walls, because they're nuts. That mental stimulation, these are animals with animal instincts that we are inviting into our world and then expecting them to live by our standards. And when we're calling out their behavior as being bad, it's not bad. It's I'm a dog being a dog, and we need to let them be dogs, and we need to get them out and let them get out their yayas.
Right, a big welcome back everyone to the Live, Love, Learn podcast with me, your host, Catherine Edwards. And if you share your life with animals, you, like us, have probably noticed something very worrying over the last couple of decades, that our animals are living with more allergies, more skin issues, digestive issues, more cancer, more behavioural problems than ever before. And quite honestly, we're seeing a lot of these same patterns happening in humans. So today's conversation you are going to love, whether you've actually got animals in your life now or whether you're looking to in the future. We're going to be looking at why the animals living closest to us are becoming so sick, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it. The modern pet world often pushes many people with animals towards highly processed food, routine chemicals, frequent medical interventions, and so many of our animals are living increasingly disconnected from their natural biology. And all of us pet owners, we're trying to do our best. So how do we navigate this landscape without being overwhelmed? How do we know what information to trust? And how do we support our animals in a way that really builds health rather than just managing symptoms? So today you are in for a treat. I'm being joined by someone who has been asking these questions for over 4 decades, an absolute legend in the natural pet care world. Dr. Judy Morgan is an integrative veterinarian, acupuncturist, chiropractor, food therapist, best-selling author and international speaker with more than 40 years of clinical experience. She's been an absolute pioneer in helping pet owners understand how nutrition, environment, and natural therapies can dramatically improve the health and longevity of our animals. Her mission is simple but powerful: to help pet parents raise naturally healthy pets whilst reducing reliance on chemicals, unnecessary vaccines, and ultra-processed diets. And today she's going to share 6 key ways we can support our pets' health naturally. So, Dr. Judy, what an absolute delight for myself and all our listeners to have you on your show. How are you doing?
I am doing really well, and thank you for the opportunity to reach more people.
Yeah, we've got to reach more people with this information because in a world of the internet, we've got so much information at our fingertips, but also so much disinformation. So today, I know you're going to help us sort of weave through that and come up with some really good things that everyone can start looking at now. But I'd like to start, if I may, by asking a little bit more about yourself so the listeners can really get to know you a bit more. You started your life as a traditional veterinarian and have very much moved into the holistic landscape. What was the cause for that? Was it a sudden thing? Was it a gradual evolution?
It was a big accident.
Was it?
Yeah. So many people ask me this question, and I laugh every time because it truly was accidental. I had a business partner. I was a part owner of a clinic, and he did a lot of orthopedic surgery, and I love surgery, but I didn't do anything orthopedic. And so this card came across my desk that invited me to take a course called Veterinary Orthopedic Manipulation. And it said, this will help your patients recover faster from surgery. It'll prevent reoccurrence of sports injuries, that sort of thing. And I thought, well, this would be a great adjunct. I could do this, and that would get me more involved in those surgical cases where I wasn't actually doing the surgery, and we could, help. And I was really interested in looking at rehab, which was pretty new at the time. And so I thought, well, this would be great. And I showed up to the course and I got lost on the way there. So I was late getting there, and I come flying in and things are already going on. And about 2 hours into listening to this guy talk, I went, I think he's talking about chiropractic. And
Wow.
then it ended up half the people in the room were chiropractors and the other half were veterinarians. And so I was really sort of out of sorts. I'm like, I don't even know if I believe in this. My partner's never going to go for this, but I paid a lot of money. So I stuck it out. And when I got back to my practice the following week, I started using what I had learned because why not? And the results were miraculous. Animals that couldn't walk, one treatment, they were running. And I kind of did sort of a double take of, wow, I've been missing this had been in practice like 10 or 12 years at that point. And I said, so I've been missing this for the past 10 years. And all those animals that I could have helped that got euthanized or left paralyzed or whatever. And I said, if this is so good, what else is out there? And that just opened Pandora's box of what else is in here that I can work with. And so I just started dabbling in everything. And traditional Chinese medicine was what really hit my hot button. So acupuncture came next, food therapy, started playing with the herbs, and just incorporating so many different things into practice. So it was sort of gradual, but it was also just a sudden flip. And it was really funny because sometimes I would have clients, like my aunt's dog hurt itself trying to jump on the sofa. It missed. It was this little Maltese. It missed and it head jammed into the side of the sofa. And it really messed up its neck and had trouble walking. And so I didn't think my aunt was going to go for the whole chiropractic thing. So I put the dog on steroids. I did muscle relaxers, did all the usual traditional stuff. The dog had a really bad reaction to the steroids and it started vomiting blood. And I was like, all right, we have to stop the drugs. And so she had the dog there for follow up. And I took the dog in the back and I said, I'm going to do my chiropractic thing on this dog and I'm going to see what happens. So I did the adjustment. I put the dog on the floor and it started running normal, running around in circles. I opened the door from the back room. The dog raced down the hallway back to my aunt and uncle. And she said, oh, you cured her. How did you do that? Like, we'd been playing with this for a month. And I said, oh, I hate to tell you, I did chiropractic on your dog. She's like, oh, that's so cool. Now, this is my very traditional family that I thought they're going to think I've lost my mind. And then I was kind of mad at myself. Like, why didn't I do that on day one? That dog suffered with medications and side effects and problems for a month because I wasn't brave enough to say I could do something different. So my
Wow.
patients just had to keep teaching me along the way, like, get out of your traditional box and let's go find a different way to do this that'll be better.
I love that. And honestly, there's so many ways we could go with that, because when you look at what's happening in society today, if we had the courage to ask more questions, and I'm sure we'll get on to this, if the pet owners had the courage to ask more questions, then we could save ourselves a lot of heartache. But from my perspective, Dr. Judy, I've been working in holistic health with animals for probably 20, 25 years, and I'm seeing a really worrying real deterioration in so many chronic conditions. What are you seeing in your work? Are you seeing that pattern? And what are some of the biggest changes that you've noticed in what you're seeing coming up time and time again with people's animals?
It's really interesting. I, for some reason this year, I've been invited to speak everywhere, and I'm going to be doing a ton of traveling. But that means I also have to make about 20 presentations that are brand new. So I started working yesterday on one on cancer and treating cancer naturally and prevention. And I came across some statistics that, I wasn't even sure I was going to include it in the presentation. And I told my husband the statistics, and he went, "Oh my gosh, that's earth shattering. Like, I hope you're talking about that." And I went, "Okay, I guess I'm talking about that." But so these are United States statistics, and I was looking at cancer stats for people and pets in the US over about a 3-year period a couple years ago. And there are 342 million people in the United States. 1.8 million are diagnosed with cancer in a year. So it's about 0.5% of the population. Dogs and cats, there's about 90 million of each. So it's 180 million. It's half as many. 6 million dog cancer diagnoses and 6 million cat cancer diagnoses per year. So their percentage of having cancer is 3.4%. Why are our animals 6 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than people? 6 times. I was blown away. Like, it shocks me that there's 6 million diagnosed of each per year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, where did they get that statistic? Because I know in my clinic, I didn't report those cases to anybody. They weren't written up anywhere. And if they weren't going to get chemotherapy and seeing an oncologist, they're probably not even part of that 6 million. So why are our animals so sick? And you are absolutely right in your intro when you're talking about chronic disease problems, allergies, huge issue. I mean, why are we seeing so many kids with peanut allergies? When I was a child, peanut allergies didn't exist. Like,
didn't
you never
exist,
heard of that.
did it? No, it really didn't exist. And I think people, just to cover that, not this one off, people always say with the human side of things, particularly with things like autism, oh, it just wasn't diagnosed then. But we all know that's rubbish.
Yeah,
we just
absolutely.
didn't see it. Yeah.
Like, growing up as a child in public school, half of our class wasn't twitching and doing weird things. If you had somebody like that, they would be looked at very, very differently. And now, I mean, walk into a school classroom and half the kids are really struggling. And what has caused that? And I think we're seeing, the great news about our animals is, yes, we have behavior problems, but they don't have to read a book and they don't have to interact in society so much. So, probably the same exact brain disorders are going on in our pets that are going on in our children, but we don't have a way to really diagnose it as well. I will say that probably my two young dogs are definitely on the spectrum. They're nuts.
Yeah.
And you know what? Their problem is they were COVID children.
Yeah.
I've got 2 young dogs who were COVID babies, so they did not get exposure to anyone. They were locked in for that first year and a half of their life. And their behavior is totally different from my dogs that have traveled and, been places and done things. So, we're causing problems for our pets as well. But, it was very interesting in my personal veterinary practices, watching the changes over the years,
Mm.
because I had clients who stuck with me for 35 years. So I saw multiple generations of their pets. And we all started out in my practices very traditional. We practice traditional medicine. And as I shifted, obviously my patients were shifted, my clients were shifted, and I saw huge differences in, as we would get a couple generations down the line with their pets. It's, people coming in and saying, oh no, I don't want all those vaccinations. Oh
Yeah.
no, I don't want all those chemicals. Oh, I am going to feed this fresh food diet. And seeing the longevity and less chronic disease problems, less arthritis, less pancreatitis, like pick an itis. Uh, we can keep all of that at bay if we are coming at things from a totally different direction than what the traditionalists are saying we should be doing with our pets.
It's so true. I agree with absolutely everything you say. And I think it's very sad to see. I mean, you made such an important point there about the cancer, is like those are probably the only stats for the ones that are actually in the treatment system. It will be way higher. And I found it absolutely devastating how many dogs and cats I've seen with cancer, and even in friends and family. And a lot of those are in families that are doing a lot of stuff great now, but those animals came from rescue backgrounds. For example, they've had very traumatic, very difficult starts in life. And even though it's never too late to make improvements, sometimes, unfortunately, there can be some things there that aren't reversible. So let's get into your six, things that everyone could do. Should we start with the really lovely, controversial, going to get everyone going, vaccines? So tell us, what is your stance now? Let's start, really be talking about dogs and cats perhaps for this. Where are you at with vaccines? Because there's so much conflicting advice, and also sort of ourselves in the UK, when I'm speaking to clients, for example, in the States, we don't have any compulsory vaccines for dogs and cats in the UK. However, if you want to travel or put them into boarding kennels or show them and things like that, that's when it starts to get tricky. However, most vets are still recommending annual vaccinations. So let's
Yep.
dive deep into that one.
Yeah. So I haven't done a survey recently, but about 10 years ago when I was first started writing my books, I looked into how many veterinarians, traditional veterinarians, are recommending annual vaccinations. And it was really interesting because some of the older veterinarians, it's been like dentists have figured out how to do it. You go in, you get your cleaning and your checkup, and you are scheduling your next appointment in 6 months before you walk out the door. Dentists have been doing that forever. Veterinarians have tried it, and it's a complete failure all the time. It's just people won't do it. We try it in our clinic, people won't do it. But so the way that veterinarians have used the thinking that they've used to get people to come in once a year is you get a postcard in the mail that says they're due for shots. And, my argument is, well, couldn't we just send a postcard that says, hey, Fluffy is due to have a complete physical examination, as a preventative care? Instead, you get Fluffy's due for shots, and you think, oh my gosh, well, I have to go get those shots.
Yeah.
So you end up showing up. So once we started diving into looking at being able to do titers, or which is a blood test to see if they still have antibodies and immunity against a certain disease, or we started looking at, hey, you know what? These core vaccines actually last a long time, and they may actually last a lifetime. They don't need to be given every year. We know that. Even AVMA and AHA have on their websites that the core vaccine should be given no more often than every 3 to 5 years. Even that is very arbitrary to say, oh, every 3 years. That's very arbitrary. But at least they're backing off of we need to give these every single year. But the last time I looked at the stats, over 60% of the veterinarians are still recommending giving them every year.
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, the AVMA and AHA both have on there, oh, no raw feeding. Raw feeding is really bad. And I'm covering 16 topics here. raw feeding is really bad. And so all the veterinarians point to that on those websites and say, oh, well, raw feeding, we're all against raw feeding. But then they totally ignore the every 3 to 5 year vaccines. I'm like, how do you pick and choose what you want to follow and what you don't want to follow? Like, that makes no sense.
Complete madness.
Well, yeah, right. One of them makes you money and one of them doesn't. And I'm not saying that veterinarians are in it for the money, but I will say that corporate medicine, they have minimums for every month. And I see veterinarians complaining about it all the time. Oh, they told me I didn't sell enough stool sample tests this month, or I didn't sell enough Lyme vaccines this month. And, in order to, I have to hit my quota in order to get my bonus money. So, they're not in it just for the money, but the veterinarians are trying to pay their bills, and corporate is telling them what they have to sell.
Yeah.
And so that's a horrible change in veterinary medicine, and that's way off topic. But my thinking with vaccinations when I started in practice in 1984, yes, every vaccine, every year, every animal, because that's what we were taught, and we didn't know any better. And or maybe the vaccine companies knew better, but they certainly weren't about to tell us. So once I really got into doing things more holistically, I started really backing off. And I was seeing more and more reactions to vaccinations. I was seeing allergic responses. I was seeing autoimmune disease. And so it was pretty easy to say, hey, we've got to do something different. It really got interesting because the more I moved away from traditional medicine and the more I really embraced the holistic side of it, my vaccine protocols got skimpier and skimpier to the point where, puppies and kittens in traditional practice are going to get a minimum of a series of 3 vaccines somewhere between 6 and 16 weeks of age. They're going to get a minimum of a series of 3. I've seen some of them come with records where they had a series of 7, which I just look at those animals and go, well, you're doomed. Like, we're going to be fighting this for the next 15 years if they live that long. And I got down to the point where an awful lot of them got a series of 1.
Yeah.
And so we actually started with my holistic clients who were moving in that same direction with me. We started a new protocol for kittens where they waited until 14 to 16 weeks and they did just get that 1 vaccine. And for the puppies, we would wait till at least 12 weeks. And then they would get a single distemper. And then a few weeks later, they'd get a single parvo. And then we went back in and did titers on them at 6 months and at 1 year. And the animals who got the least vaccines, like they just got that single vaccine, had the highest titers.
Yeah.
Like, their immune system said, oh, I can deal with that. Yes, let's make antibodies. When we bombard them and we start way too early, so mom's immunity is still interfering with their immune system being able to make protection. The more vaccines they get, the weaker their titers are. They're just overwhelmed. They can't do it.
It's so true. And it's so sad that so many people are giving that information. And even I still have a lot of clients that say that their vets, not all vets, but a significant number, even if they miss that annual date, they're told to start the whole course again.
That makes me nuts.
And it's quite incredible, the brainwashing. I'm not sure where it sits in the population, how much is on the veterinary side, how much is in the public, and probably a combination of the two, that we don't question that. We started off with your journey that you started really questioning things. And actually, if people sit down and really question that suddenly there's a date that ticks by one day to the next and suddenly all the immunity is gone, is so ridiculous, isn't it?
It is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And, but I feel bad for the pet owner because they don't have a science background, most of them. They don't know to question that. There's somebody in a white coat with a stethoscope saying, this is what we need to do. This is the truth. And it can be very hard to question that if you don't have any knowledge. And that's really what my whole platform is about, is empowering pet parents with knowledge so that you can have that conversation and they, oh, you're a week late for your rabies vaccine. We have to start over. This one's only good for 1 year. Uh, it's it, it's a bunch of bull, and we need pet owners to have enough knowledge to say, actually, I know that's not true.
Yeah.
And then, give them the resources to back that up. Um, the great thing is that we all now walk around with these little mini computers.
Yeah.
And so it can be pretty quick to look something up and say, is there truth to this? And so I would encourage people to really question. So my own animals are extremely minimally vaccinated. I have outdoor cats. I did not vaccinate them for leukemia.
Yeah.
They have had one rabies and they've had one distemper, and they're 5 years old. And I mean, they live outside in my barn. They hunt all the time, and I feel very comfortable with their immune status, and they're the healthiest cats I've ever had. My dogs are all rescues.
Yeah.
So most of them came with all kinds of chemicals and vaccines thrown on board. So, once we get them, we basically clean up their act. And it's like, okay, I've got to detox you for these neurotoxins that you've had. And I've got to, rebalance your system because you had all these vaccines. And unfortunately, coming through rescue, it's like they get picked up, they go to the shelter, or they go into foster care, and they get 17 vaccines in one day. They get flea chemicals, they get heartworm chemical. It's like bombard them. But I can say that it is possible to clean up their act. We've had puppy mill rescues that have had just horrendous histories that have lived to be 18 and 19. So that's the goal, is to get all these animals to that point. So we would hope that everybody can do that.
I love it. And I love the fact that, the universe always sends you what you need next to learn the next lesson. So, I help clients all over the world with these sort of issues. My 2 Romanian rescue dogs that I've got at the moment had an incredibly traumatic start to life. And of course, to get them over into the UK, they have to have every possible vaccine and chemical going.
Exactly.
And one of them's got really bad ongoing skin issues. And that's why I'm transparent with people. You can have all the skills, but there's always going to be that exception where they flummox you, and that's the next stage of your learning. And I'm dealing with that. And the impact of the emotional trauma and the physical trauma can be pretty harsh on some animals. But you've got some really good tools on your website to educate people about, a lot of people might have rescues in that situation, but they might also not have known, and they might have other animals that they did go to put the vaccinations in. Let's go and talk perhaps about the wormers, the flea control, the tick control, and all that chemical bombardment. And then perhaps you can share some of your resources for cleaning up an animal if they've had that.
Yeah. So this, I don't think this is a bigger problem in Europe than in America, but we see more studies of the toxins and the pollution that it is causing in the environment coming out of Europe. Great studies showing that all the waterways in England are contaminated with fipronil. It's a neurotoxic flea and tick chemical that we use topically on our pets. And why is it in the waterways? Because it's on so many dogs that are swimming in the waterways. A great study just came out about the isoxazoline, so Bravecto, Credelio, Simparica, NexGard, showing that those metabolites of that chemical, when it breaks down in the body, are being passed in the feces of the cats and dogs 6 months after the chemical is used. And what is the problem with that being in the poop? Oh, well, all the dung beetles and all the insects that crawl through the poop, eat things in the poop, that's their source of sustenance. It's killing them because they are ingesting these chemicals. And it's, it's not like you give it to your dog and it's gone tomorrow, or it's gone in exactly 30 days or 90 days, whatever the label says. I mean, there's actually now an injectable Bravecto that lasts for 12 months.
I can't
Why someone would do that? I mean, yes, it's convenient. Why the veterinarians are pushing it just blows my mind. But with 90% of these, 95% of these neurotoxic chemicals that we are either feeding our pets, injecting into our pets, or putting on top of our pets, it's not out of their system in 30 days. There's no antidote for them. So if your pet has seizures or gets sick or is vomiting blood, there's nothing you can do about it except treat them symptomatically and cross your fingers. And I get people who email me and say, well, we're on day 29. It'll be out of his system tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, try in 6 months. It's still there. And most of those chemicals do not repel fleas and ticks. The fleas and ticks have to bite your pet in order to get the chemical in their system and die. So you're not preventing flea allergy. You're not preventing Lyme disease and babesiosis and, all the other tick-borne diseases, because your pet still has to get bitten. So why don't we look at something that's more natural that would actually repel? Essential oils and even coconut oil do a really great job at actually keeping the mosquitoes and flies and fleas and ticks from wanting to bite your pet. So how about we go with that? Because that's actually going to repel. We were at a county fair event. My daughter was showing horses, and we had the opportunity to set up a tent talking about our holistic vet clinics, and we had products in the tent. So one evening we're standing out there, it's dusky, it was very hot and humid in the summer, and the little tiny gnats and mosquitoes were just eating us alive. We're just going crazy. And I had a couple of dogs in the tent with me, and I also happened to have an essential oil flea spray with me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. And so I took one of my dogs and I literally went 2 little spritzes on her back. The entire tent cleared out. Mosquitoes, gnats, like everybody wanted to come in there because there were no mosquitoes and gnats because I put 2 spritzes of essential oil on my dog. And so, for me, it's like, well, I think I'd rather do that. So I think that we need to get away from the convenience factor of giving something once a month or once a year. The same with the heartworm preventative, the injectable heartworm preventatives, the ProHeart that lasts 6 months or 12 months. That stuff is so deadly. It got pulled off the market once because it killed too many dogs. And then 3 years later, they brought it back. They didn't change the chemical. They changed the wording in the packaging. That's all that changed. And so it's still just as deadly. And, we hadn't killed enough dogs yet. So we had to make a 12-month injection, which basically took the same chemical that's in it, moxidectin, and they tripled the dose. And they said, good, now it's good for 12. Yeah. So it didn't kill enough at the single dose. We'll triple it. Makes no sense to me. So I think, there's a lot of things we need to be doing differently. We need to get away. First of all, we're trashing our environment, if nothing else.
Completely, because I think that British study also showed about, obviously the fur, the birds make the nests, it was killing the birds, it was stopping them breeding. The devastation everywhere. Plus also, we know there's so many problems in human health, and in a lot of our countries, they have water recycling plants. So a lot of these chemicals are never taken out of your drinking water either. Now, quite frankly, at this stage, I'm more worried about the animals than I am the humans. So, but it's a serious consideration.
It's really interesting, and they started this first in Europe, but now they're doing it here. Florilanor, which is the isoxazoline that's in Bravecto, they are now putting in poultry drinking water in the poultry houses. They've been doing it in Europe forever. They just started doing it here like a year ago. It's called Exult, and it's to kill poultry mites. So mites are a huge problem in poultry houses because you have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of birds all squished together. And the mites cause a lot of scratching. So it decreases production and growth, decreases egg production. Okay, that's all great. So we give the chickens the Florilanor in their water. how long does it take to come out of the meat or the eggs? And there is no withdrawal period. So they can give it right up to the day they slaughter the chicken. So how many of us are eating those metabolites? Because they're not disappearing. And I don't think anybody's done any testing on it, and I don't think they care.
No.
There was actually talk a few years ago that they wanted to give the Florilanner to 25% of the human population in countries where malaria is a huge problem. And they said, well, if we give the 25% of the human population this chemical and they get bitten by mosquitoes, it'll kill off enough mosquitoes that it'll stop the transmission of malaria. The only problem is if we don't have any mosquitoes, what happens to the birds and the frogs and all the animals that eat mosquitoes for a living? And that's how they survive. So now we, again, don't mess with Mother Nature. You can't take out one piece of the ecosystem and think that the rest of it is just going to continue along its merry way.
Completely. And we've seen what an absolute disaster the whole glyphosate was. Before we move on to the food, which I know you're an absolute expert to, Dr. Judy, going back to the topicals, because this is a dilemma that so many people have. I probably get so many people, it's the most common question I got. What can I give naturally to prevent my dog or cat getting any of these? So it's a whole education, because people are so used to, one, people do not understand that the fleas and ticks are having to bite the animal first to pick up the poison that's in the animal's bloodstream. But secondly, it's this mindset that they can give something once a month or once every 6 months or once a year that's going to prevent any problems. How do you tackle that in your education with people?
Well, part of the problem is we just keep focusing on the animal.
Yeah.
It's like we just want to throw chemicals at our animals or on our animals and think that's going to solve the problem. Only 5% of the life cycle of fleas and ticks is spent on the pet. The other 95% is in the environment. We need environmental control. So if you happen to have a household full of animals and you also have a household full of fleas, stop treating your animals and start treating your house and your yard.
Yeah.
And there are natural ways to do that. So it's interesting. I did a consultation for a woman from Florida. Now, it never gets cold in Florida. They don't have freezes. So, the fleas and ticks are just active all year long. And she was doing everything right with her animals, using essential oils and diatomaceous earth and, a lot of the different things that we talk about, flea combing them, vacuuming the house, all that stuff. But she had 2 golden retrievers and they just kept getting infested and kept getting infested. And I met her at an event in Georgia. We're sitting around the campfire and we're having a conversation. And I said, well, what are you doing about your yard? She said, what do you mean? What am I doing about my yard? I'm like, you're in Florida and you have sand and you have a million fleas in your yard. And she said, oh, I never really thought about it. So I had her get beneficial nematodes, which are basically little bugs that eat the different life stages of the other bugs. And she put down the nematodes. This was probably about 8 years ago now. I get an email from her every year. Still no fleas. Still no fleas. Every year she treats her yard.
Try that. I haven't
treats
tried
her yard with nematodes.
Yet.
Solves the problem. As a matter of fact, we're just getting into flea season. Ticks are around all year round, but they actually get more active at the change from fall to winter and from winter to spring. So we see more activity those couple of months of the year. But where I am in North Carolina, we are now getting into flea season. And I will tell you, I was picking at the warehouse yesterday and the nematodes were flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
It was like everybody wants nematodes now because it's time to spray. And it's so simple to do. And like my daughter was having a flea problem with her dogs and she put the nematodes down in her yard.
How do you apply them, Dr. Judy?
So they're really interesting. They come dried in a little cloth bag. It's really interesting. I bought earthworms for my garden the same way. They come dried and then you add water and they spring back to life and start multiplying. So it's basically the same thing. You add water to the nematodes and then use a sprayer to spray it on your yard. It's pretty simple to do. Nematodes don't like it if it's freezing, and they don't like it if it's 100 degrees and sunny with no shade. So they're going to die off on those parts of your yard. But guess what? Fleas and ticks don't like those areas either. Fleas and ticks survive in shady, bushy areas, mulchy areas. And something else that you can do if you're in an area with a lot of deer and wildlife, plant deer resistant plants in your yard, things that deer don't like. I planted tulips one year and found out that deer love tulips. The tulips all bloomed and the deer came in and just mowed them all down in one night. So you plant deer resistant plants so the deer don't come in your yards because the deer are bringing ticks with them. So, there's just a lot of environmental things that we can do that are natural that will help keep your pets free and clear. So I live on a farm and our farmland is so beautiful because we have 23 acres and the center of it is completely cleared, but it has a ring of woods all the way around it. So it makes us very isolated. I can barely see the neighbors in the winter. And the thing is, if I walk down in my woods, I'm going to come home with ticks and there's snakes and there's all kinds of stuff down there. My dogs don't have the opportunity to go in the woods because I don't want to deal with that. They're long-haired dogs. I'm just not going to do it. So they have a beautiful fenced area in the sunny part of the field where fleas and ticks just don't want to live there. What's really interesting is my outside cats go hunting in the woods all the time. I have 7 cats out there, and I think I've pulled maybe 2 ticks in the last 5 years on my cats. A healthy animal is going to repel pests. They just don't taste very good, and it's like when I was in practice and I'd have people that had a dozen cats. They'd bring in 12 cats. The old 6 skinny cat with kidney failure would have thousands of fleas on it. The healthy, robust 2-year-old has none. They are parasites. And the definition of a parasite is something that parasitizes or feeds on another animal. And they're always going to choose the weak ones. And that's why it's so important to keep your pet's immune system healthy, not drown them in chemicals and over-vaccination and all these things that are making their immune system sick. If we can, for instance, there's I think this is on in our heartworm blog, but there's a great video on YouTube that shows a baby heartworm swimming in the blood. And it's a time-lapse photography where the white blood cells and the immune system come in and they surround it and eat it over about a 48-hour period. So that's not from a chemical that was given. That's an immune system saying, hey, that's a foreign invader. I need to go attack it. Dr. Will Falconer in Texas, he's a homeopath veterinarian. He has a great ebook. And it used to be connected to our website, and I don't think it is anymore, but it's called something like Healthy Dogs Don't Get Heartworms, something like that. But they don't, because their immune system is going to clean up that. And so I've moved so far away from using any chemicals on my animals, even my barn cats. They're going to be more prone to get fleas just because they're out there catching mice and doing all that stuff. But we have an herbal powder that barn cats are hard to treat with anything, and they can't wear collars, they can't wear tags. But I have an herbal powder that I can put in my hand and then walk by and, do one swipe across the top of the cat. And if I can't get close enough to do the swipe, I can get behind them and shake powder over them. Even those animals that are highly exposed on my farm still get a natural death. We adopted a bunch of farm animals from a high kill auction, and they came with lice. You name it. And that natural powder is what we used on them to get rid of the lice and solve those problems as well. And as far as internal deworming for intestinal parasites, I never have to do that with my animals. Like I can test a stool sample anytime and they're going to be negative. And it is sad when we get these animals through rescue, even though they've been treated with a million chemicals, a lot of them do come with a lot of parasites. And so then we just, occasionally I'll have to use a real dewormer if they're really loaded. But usually we can go pretty natural with that as well. There are so many herbal formulas that work. Um, and unfortunately, on our website, we do not ship to Europe.
Yeah.
But it does give you the opportunity. You can at least, if you put in the search treating for parasites, you'll see what kind of products are available and what ingredients like what herbal ingredients they have in them. And then you can find something similar to that wherever you are. And so, I mean, that's how I sometimes will research a lot of things for people that are out of the country that I'm consulting with. It's like, all right, well, let me go see what's available in your country.
Absolutely.
And, whether we have to start with just a single herb that we can go get, or if we can find a combination product that's going to work well. So I think the natural pet space has grown so much in the last decade that it's pretty easy to find something no matter where you are.
It really is. Hi, everyone. It's Catherine here. I want to really quickly share something that's so important to me. I love hosting this podcast because it allows us all to explore those big questions, challenge our programming, and uncover the natural truths that truly empower us. But did you know my real passion's working one-on-one with animals and people, helping you or your animal cut through the noise, find the root cause of imbalances, stress, illnesses, or really just create a personalized plan that actually works for you. So whether you're here for your own healing or you're a dedicated animal guardian, wanting the very best for your dog, cat, horse, any four-legged or scaled or winged companion, I'm here for you both. I work with animals and humans, but I especially love helping the animals thrive. That is my real happy place. So my recharge and reset consultations and online courses are packed with practical tools, printable resources, lifelong access, and the main thing is you'll never feel alone on this journey. And they work. Just head over to my website and check out the testimonials. So if you're really ready to take action and not just listen, head over to catherineedwards.life, that's Catherine with the C and .life at the end, and explore my courses and consults. Or if you want to, book a free 15-minute chat to see if I can help. Because it's really important we stop outsourcing our health, really look after our animal companions better than before, and start leading by example. Now back to the podcast. Thank you. And it's so rewarding when you do, because you're working with nature. And the other good thing is when you're using the natural solutions, there's no resistance issues because, no two neem plants are identical. So it just kills two birds with one stone. It's fantastic. So diet, there's so much information, misinformation, and I know you are an absolute expert at this. You've got books, you've got courses, you've got free recipes, everything for every budget. But what are some of the main mistakes that you're still seeing people make? And I'll just throw one in there that perhaps I can have your comment on as well. It's almost gone in the natural world on Facebook groups and things. It's a bit like, oh, I feed raw, that will sort everything, with no consideration to whether it's balanced or quality.
Yeah, I used to, obviously people coming to my clinic knew that I was a huge fan of raw feeding. And I get that a lot of people are scared to death of feeding raw. And so gently cooked is also fine.
Yeah.
So we can settle that little debate right now. My dogs go back and forth between gently cooked and raw. My cats are 99% raw.
Yeah.
So, the biggest mistakes that we make is we listen to big pet food advertising and the veterinarians who are so close-minded that they think the only way to get proper nutrition to our pets is to put dead, dry brown balls made by big three pet food companies into the bowl. It's so crazy. If you took your child to the pediatrician and they handed you a box of cereal, dry cereal, and said, because if you look at, a box of Cheerios or whatever, you'll see that it's corn, high fructose corn syrup, some sort of sugar. But then you'll see a whole list of chemicals and it's vitamins and minerals that are added. So it's no different. Our dry pet food is the same thing. It's a few ingredients that you can read and understand, and then you may not understand them completely because they lie, but but then you see this huge chemical list, and that's adding back in the vitamins and minerals that have been burnt out of the food in the extrusion process. But if your pediatrician handed you that box and said, this is all I want you to feed your child, put it in their bowl twice a day, don't add any, God forbid, don't add people food to it because you'll unbalance it. And food is food. It's not, and actually there is a huge difference between people food and pet food, because the pet food is regulated like feed, animal feed, like livestock feed, totally different. But if your pediatrician told you to do that and said, nope, he can never have anything. No, he can't have any apples or carrots or blueberries. No. Oh, no. We would probably run screaming out of that office going, that person is crazy as a loon. But yet when the veterinarian stands there and says, nope, here's your bag of stuff, dump it in the bowl twice a day, we all go, okay, the veterinarian knows best. No, they don't. So what's really interesting, since RFK Jr. took over head of Health and Human Services, or whatever it is, HHS, here, and he's talking about getting back to real food, whole foods, and getting away from processed foods. And they just did this big thing where they're saying in medical school, the students have to get at least, I think it's like 20 hours of nutrition training.
Right.
Why don't we require that in veterinary school? And it's really interesting. The naysayers and the processed food people, they'll make comments like, well, what are you taking out of the curriculum to put those 20 hours in? And I'm like, really? Like, you think it's so unimportant for us to learn anything? Like, I can tell you in vet school, what I learned about nutrition was which Hill's alphabet diet to feed for kidney disease, heart disease. That was our nutrition training.
Yeah.
And so when you're sitting there in your internal medicine class and they're telling you the only way to treat kidney disease is with this specific ultra low protein diet, which we now know is absolutely the wrong way to treat kidney disease, but it's still what's pushed. I mean, it's amazing. I get clients who email me and say, well, my dog just got diagnosed with stage 1 kidney disease because he's got a little protein in his urine, or his SDMA went from 14 to 15. And so they want my dog to be put on this low protein prescription diet. I'm like, well, if you do that, I guarantee your dog will be dead in a year.
Yeah.
And if we feed them real foods and high quality proteins, they could live another 10 years. It's just, it is so backwards. It is so backwards. So we need nutrition training in our vet schools. We need it in our human medical schools as well.
Yeah.
But we also need to train pet owners to question that. Like, does that even make sense? I know it's convenient, but I will tell you that I buy already made raw meals or gently cooked meals a lot of the time because I don't always have time to make food for a million animals. So I'm getting it from very reputable companies. And some of the recipes are my formulations that the companies are making. So I'm like, I know this is what my animals need. It is no more inconvenient. It is not a problem. I literally thaw it out, open the package, and put it on their platter to eat. It doesn't take any longer than pouring dry kibble in the bowl. Yes, I will have to wash their bowl afterwards, but you know what? If you're feeding dry kibble, you should be washing the bowl, and you probably shouldn't, and you shouldn't be handling that with your bare hands either. And your children certainly should not be eating that dry kibble because an awful lot of it is contaminated.
Yeah, a huge amount. It's so worrying. It's so worrying, this attitude. I mean, I always joke that humans are the only species on the planet that need nutrition lists. And really, the only reason, I mean, I get it all the time. It's like in nature, if you look out and see rabbits in your field, you haven't got a puppy rabbit, a rabbit that only puppies can eat. And then you haven't got a different one that only a Labrador can eat. I mean, it's just complete madness. And but the brainwashing is real, and it's been
Yes.
so well done, the marketing, that you have this bag of Hills if you've got a Labrador, and then you need a different bag if you've got a Spaniel, because they couldn't possibly eat the same. Um, Now, in terms of the clients for having the confidence, before we move on to nutrition, because it's so important, you've got quite a few resources, haven't you, on your site that people can really learn how to balance a meal and home prepare it. It's not as
Yes.
difficult as people think it is it?
No, not nearly as difficult. And I saw that you have courses on DIY cat food
Yeah,
and dog food as well. And for anybody who, has a couple of hours and a couple of bucks to get a course on how to balance a meal, uh, go for it.
yeah,
But on our website, we actually have a lot of free recipes that can be downloaded. And we're actually going through all of them right now and sort of standardizing them so that they all make the same amount of food and that sort of thing. Make it a little bit easier. But we even have recipes that I've formulated for dogs or cats with heart disease, kidney disease. My books, which are all available on Amazon, have a ton of recipes in them. I actually have a few that are just cookbooks for dogs based on Chinese medicine food therapy. So that's
love
kind of
that.
fun if you really want to dive in a little bit, figure out. We also have the pet personality quiz. So you can figure out what their Chinese element personality is, which is great because once you figure that out, then you know what kind of diseases they're prone to.
Yeah,
If you have a fire dog that's ruled by the heart and the small intestine, guess what? You better be looking to eliminate IBD and heart disease.
mm,
It's kind of fun to do that. We also have a human personality quiz if you want to figure out why your partner ticks the way they do. It can be kind of fun, but you can also feed yourself to support weaknesses in different elements. And then the keeping your pets naturally healthy, there's over 40 recipes in that book, and those are for dogs and cats based on different diseases in organ systems. So there's kidney diets, liver diets, pancreatitis, diabetes. So there's a lot of different recipes in there. So we try to make it so that even if someone has a budget of $0,
yeah,
you can download information, you can download recipes. And I would say that for anyone who is interested in making their own food for their cats or dogs, make sure you're following recipes, particularly at the
yes,
beginning. Don't eliminate like the ingredients are all there for a reason. Don't say, oh, I can't find kelp, so I'm not going to put that in. Well, you just eliminated the iodine from their diet. Or, I don't have ground eggshells or bone meal powder, so I'll just skip it. Well, that's the calcium source, and they kind
yeah.
of need that. So, everything is there for a reason. And I say one of the biggest complaints that we get is, oh, I don't like to touch liver. It's very slimy.
Yeah,
And they don't want to do anything with the organ meats. Well, they're there because those are the powerhouse of nutrition. It's really interesting now that we have our own farm, we process our own meat chickens.
yeah,
And my daughter takes all of the hearts and all of the livers for herself. She said, once I started eating the heart and liver, I realized I must have been really low in iron. I must
yeah.
have been really anemic because this is like taking an energy pill when I sit there and eat a couple of chicken livers. And I'm like, good for you, honey. But all that stuff is in those recipes for a reason. So don't skip the important parts, even if they are a little slimy. You can wear gloves.
I so love that you said that, because again, it's such a common theme that, you say people saying, oh, I raw feed my animal and they're just getting a chicken breast and nothing else. And that's
Yeah.
not going to be balanced. So thank you so much for covering that. And of course, all Dr. Judy's resources are going to be below. Now, one of the other things that you talk about, which I think is so often overlooked, is the mental health aspects. Tell us what people need to be really, what are your top picks in there that people need to be aware of?
So our animals are very social animals. And, you know, a lot of people have cats because they live in an apartment and they're like, oh, they're easy and you can leave them alone all day. And yeah, they don't really need anything. Actually, cats need a lot of mental stimulation
Mm.
and cats need vertical space.
Yeah.
And that is something that is so often overlooked. Why do you think your cat is on top of your refrigerator? You hate them up there. You hate them on the kitchen counters. You hate them on the dining room table. But cats need vertical space. That's what they do. They climb. They also need to, like, they like to sit on top of their perch and stare down at everybody. And, you know,
Yeah.
they're kind of ruling the world from up there. But they also need the opportunity to hunt and pounce. So a lot of people get a laser light and play with their cats. And so you wave the laser light around, your cat does backflips for 10 minutes, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. And your cat is like, where did it go?
Yeah.
Talk about frustration. So over 80% of indoor cats are highly stressed.
Yeah.
Like when we look at stress markers, they're so stressed. And then you wonder why your cat's not peeing in the litter box and why they're scratching the furniture and the walls, because they're nuts.
Mm.
So you do need to entertain them, and they need to win at the end of that laser game or whatever game you're playing with them. So have a treat or something that you throw on the floor that they can run across the room and pounce on and go, ha, I got it. So kitty cats do need interaction. Our dogs also need interaction.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, we have a dog. First of all, try to get the dog that fits your lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, if you're somebody who lives in an apartment in the city, but you really like border collies, but then you go to work for 8 hours a day, and then you've got your commute. So you might be out of the house for 10 hours and you come home and your dog is climbing the walls and you're like, I'm tired. I had a long day. Go away. You put the dry brown balls in the bowl and go, I'm done. Can't do that. And if you have a working breed, a herding breed, a toy breed with high energy, you better be prepared to be just as high energy and get them out to do something. I've done so many consultations with people where all of the GI symptoms that their dog is having is frustration
Yeah.
at being cooped up, not getting their energy out, not having any mental stimulation. It's funny. We have this old Cocker Spaniel that we adopted, and he's mostly deaf. He's missing one eye, and the one eye that he has about 5% vision. So, and we don't know how old he is, probably a teenager. But he has this jolly ball, which is a big rubber ball with a handle on it, that is his favorite thing in the entire world. And our fenced area is probably at least a good quarter acre. And we can take that ball and wing it out in the yard. And he is, you know, Cocker Spaniels are hunting dogs.
Yeah.
And they've got great noses. So he literally, you'll watch him do the grid through the whole yard till he finds that ball. And then he rolls on it and makes all these funny noises and rubs all over it. He's like nuts. So yesterday, it was a nice day. The dogs had been in all day. I'd been working on the computer. Like nobody was paying attention to the dogs all day. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that dog goes and scratches on my mom's bedroom door. And she comes out and she says, oh, does Charlie need to go out and pee? He came and got me. I said, he was just outside. He doesn't need to pee. And she goes, well, he's scratching on my door. I said, because he wants you to go play ball.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what he wanted. She's like, oh. So she took him out in the backyard and threw his ball for a while. But he knows he needs that and he wants that. And if he doesn't get that, he's so obnoxious. He'll just stand there in the middle of the room barking because he wants somebody to play. And I think that's great that I've got this old dog who, you know, can't see or hear much of anything, but he knows when it's time to play. And so we need to find that outlet for our dogs, that mental stimulation. You know, these are animals with animal instincts that we are inviting into our world and then expecting them to live by our standards. And when we're calling out their behavior as being bad, it's not bad. It's I'm a dog being a dog, and we need to let them be dogs, and we need to get them out and let them get out their yayas. So whether that's hunting, walking, agility, nose work, what my sister does, she used to do obedience. She has corgis. Yeah. The dogs hate obedience. Those dogs really want to run. So she does agility, which they like a lot better, and rally. And then her younger one has really gotten into barn hunt, and he's like the best rat finder in the world. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
you found
wow.
what he
Yeah.
really likes to do. And
Yeah.
she had to go through about 5 different things, and he really kind of stunk at the first four. And then, she got into that, and it's like, oh, that's what he wants to do. So figure out what that is. And even for old dogs, like my
Yeah.
my old cocker, his x-rays look horrible. His arthritis on x-rays, it's like this dog should be sitting in a corner somewhere, and he's out chasing a ball and racing through the yard. Um, for seniors who are not that mobile, you still need to find something to entertain their brain.
Yeah.
So whether that's puzzle toys or scent work even in the house on a rainy day, let them hunt for something, give them something entertaining, and then they're actually much better housemates when we
Yeah.
let them do that.
It's such important advice, and it's such fun learning about your animals. It's such fun learning about the recipes that you can make for them. It's such fun learning about what stimulates them and what their likes and dislikes. I mean, mine are from the same litter, but they've got very different likes and dislikes, apart from they both need very long walks, which is great for me because it means I can eat more
There you
food.
go.
Yeah. So grooming and skin health, we're going to finish off with, because again, this is something that's very, very overlooked. Trying to get someone to use a flea comb, for example, you think you're asking them to build a new house for their animals. So what are people missing on the grooming and skin health side of things?
Oh man, there's so much. So just the physical act of checking all the different body parts of your dog, especially if you have a floppy eared dog.
Yeah.
If you don't lift up the ear flap and see what's going on under there, then you don't know what's going on under there.
Mm.
And it was amazing that sometimes clients would come in and they're like, there's this really bad odor coming from my dog and I can't figure out where it's coming from. And you lift up the ear flap and go, well, it could be all the pus that's down in this ear. Like,
Yeah.
so you want to do a nose to tail every single day, and if there's a brush or a comb involved in that, that's even better. But this is how we find new warts or
Yeah.
growths or sores, overgrown toenails. One of my cats, who I don't pay a whole lot of attention to in the house, she was walking around one day and leaving little blood spots, and I'm like, well, that's not good.
Mm.
And so I'm like, all right, well, let me pick up the cat. And she had an ingrown toenail.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, well, that's bad on me that I let her go so long without even looking at her nails, that they were so overgrown that it actually grew into her pad, like bad mama. So yes, we all make mistakes. So, look at their nails. Do they need to be trimmed? Look at their teeth. Like, are
Yeah.
you paying any attention to what's going on in there? Do they have a really rotten mouth that you need to get taken care of? Are you brushing the teeth? Are you taking care of the teeth because we'd like them to stick around more than a couple of years? And, when you're grooming or brushing or petting, notice, do they flinch or pull away? Do they seem really stiff? Do they tense up when you get to a certain area? Because that's an indicator of pain.
Mm.
And I think we have so much undiagnosed and unseen pain in our animals because they're very stoic, particularly the kitty cats. And if you're not poking and prodding and looking, you're not going to know. It's amazing in the summer when it's really, really hot, how many animals would come in with maggots.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, you didn't notice that their back end was caked with diarrhea for the last couple of days? Draws flies.
Yeah.
So, it's cleanliness. It's, I groom my own dogs because I'm not going to give all the vaccines
Yeah.
to them so that they can go to the groomer. I gave that up a long time ago. Unless you can find a natural groomer who isn't going to require all of that,
Mm.
learn how to groom yourself. I have Cavaliers and English toy spaniels. They have long hair, pain in the butt.
Mm.
I think my next set of dogs might be short hair, but I bought all the grooming equipment and I learned how to do it because I don't really care what they look like.
Yeah.
I'm like, if there's a knot and I have to cut it off and they've got this like short piece of hair, it's fine. I'd rather have that than have knots that are going to be painful, pulling
Yeah.
on the skin, that sort of thing. So it's not about the looks. It's about the health of the animal and really being in tune with what's going on with them.
So important. And you can tell, as you say, just make it a daily ritual, people. Again, it's such a bonding exercise, and you need to do it because we've all had that overgrown tail situation. I think most people do, and the guilt of it is so
Yes.
awful. You don't want to repeat that for yourself, but you don't for your animals. So yeah, I have to make sure I really keep. I've got guinea pigs as well, so I can't even pretend they're for the children anymore because my children are grown up. So final question before we finish. You've been so generous with your time. Veterinary care. Um, how can people have a better relationship with their vets, and what should they be looking at and asking their vets, Dr. Judy?
So again, this is where knowledge is power, and be willing to stand your ground, but uh, not come out fighting. It's being respectful
Yeah,
of their education and their knowledge, and a lot of times when veterinarians get their hackles up when you mention something holistic, it's because they don't understand it. They don't know anything about it. So for instance, when our dogs go to the cardiologist, or when I would send patients to the cardiologist, and they would say to the cardiologist, okay, great, I'll start him on this medication because his heart looks terrible in that echo, but I want to give these supplements.
yeah.
And the cardiologist will instantly say, you can't do that, or I don't know anything about that. And they don't know anything about that. They haven't studied that. It's not their
Mhm.
area of interest. So a lot of times they'll tell you not to use anything because they don't know anything about it. And if you want to make somebody really defensive, just start questioning them about things that they don't have answers for.
Yeah.
They're either going to lie, they're going to make up crap, or they're, if they're being nice and open-minded, they might just say, I don't really know anything about that, but if you think it helps, go for it, or here's somebody else you can talk to, or here's where you can go do the research. um, and actually my book Raising Naturally Healthy Pets has a whole section on how to find a veterinarian that you like, and then how to have conversations with your veterinarian in a non-combative way, uh, because it is important to have a
Yeah.
veterinarian that you can work with, because like I don't have a license to practice in North Carolina. I have to take my animals to a veterinarian, which is very odd, to be on the other side of the table. So I totally get now, being on the other side of the table, it's not always fun.
Yeah.
And I happen to have found a traditional veterinarian who, when I walk in and say, I feed raw and I don't vaccinate, she goes, okay, that's your choice. And she's fine with it. Now, not all veterinarians are going to be that way.
Mm.
You may have to listen to the lecture. We took a dog in to have surgery. My husband took his little baggie of raw food with him, and they flipped out as a specialty center. They flipped out. They put the dog into isolation, and anybody who touched the dog had to have gloves, mask, cap, gown, booties in isolation because he was a raw fed dog. Like they flipped out. So with that particular specialty practice, I learned if I had to take a dog there, I would take gently cooked food with me,
Yeah.
and I would never say raw feeding because they were going to flip out. So be a little careful how you approach things. But you do need to have a veterinarian that you can work with
Absolutely.
for when you need something.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be argumentative with them all the time. And so what I tell people all the time is find a veterinarian that is at least open-minded enough to kind of give you a little bit of leeway, and then make really, really good friends with them and their staff. Take them
Yeah.
bagels, take them donuts, take them cookies, take them flowers. I don't care, ask them what they need. Be really nice to them so that when you call, they go, oh, Mrs. Jones, yeah, what can we do for you? Instead of, oh God, it's that pain in the butt again. Like you want to make yourself into I'm a little bit alternative, but I'm really nice.
Yeah.
And that's, it's sort of sugar draws more flies. You've got to be nice to them. But don't be afraid to stand your ground. And, if they're really pushing the neurotoxic flea and tick chemicals and you don't want to do that for your pet, just say, No, I'm gonna go a different way about this. It's fine. Like so many people end up just paying for the
Yes,
chemicals
I
and then take them
know.
home and throw them away because they don't want to have the argument. And I could respect not wanting to have the argument, but I can also respect not spending $50 on a pill that I'm going to throw away.
And also know
So,
that you've the right to say thank you very much for the advice. No, thank you. You
yep.
know. I do think that's so good though, because I mean, my vet, I'm very lucky. I get on brilliantly with both my horse vet and my small animal vet, but I give them feedback as well. You know, I had a guinea pig with a really strange condition, and the vet didn't know at all. Why would they know everything? And then I went through guinea pig rescue and we found a solution. So I made sure I wrote and told the vet that so that next time he sees a guinea pig with
Yeah.
that, he'll know because they can't possibly know everything. So I think that's so important, having that respect. Dr. Judy, I could literally talk to you all day. I know my listeners would really love to hear more, but you've been so generous with your time. In terms of connecting with you, obviously all your links are below. We've got your books, your website, your courses, your free resources. Is there anything in particular you want to point people to?
Oh man, it's funny. I used to say if you had a question, pancreatitis, you could just go in your search engine and type in pancreatitis, Dr. Judy Morgan, and some sort of video, article, something will pop up. Recently, we have had to scrub a lot of our resource tags because of the FDA telling us that we're not allowed to say that something treats
Yeah.
anything. And so we've had to get rid of a lot of the diagnostic tags. Like we're
Mm.
not allowed to say allergies. We're not
Yeah.
allowed to say cancer. We have to say, stressed immune system.
Mm. Yeah.
So you may have to play with your keywords a
Mm.
little bit. But I've been doing videos and blogs and whatever since 2014. That was when we made our first website and the first book came out and we really started trying to educate. So there's a lot of resources out there. We've got a dozen years of over a dozen of resources. So there's just tons and tons and tons of stuff out there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. All Dr. Judy's links will be below. And I really encourage those of you with children, get your children involved in this. You know, they haven't been brainwashed in the same way quite so
Yes.
early as a lot of us have. And they pick it up. They've got a lot of natural ability with animals. They can often sense when something's not right. And they love learning. I mean, my children used to love preparing when they lived at home, the dog and cat food. They just loved it and foraging for herbs for the guinea pigs and the horses. So get them involved too. Thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for the listeners. Go and start educating yourself. You'll also learn a lot of really good tips for managing your own health as well. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.